Hello, this video will explain the analysis of the problem model paragraph. So you're going to write a paragraph that analyzes and summarizes the problem of false confessions. But before you do that, it's really important to look at a model in order to understand what you should be aiming towards as you write your paragraph. So this model paragraph is about hookah smoking. And first, I'm going to read the whole paragraph so you can get an idea of just the overall nature of the paragraph. And then we'll go through and talk step by step about what makes this such an effective analysis of the problem paragraph. The health risks of smoking hookah affect all participants, and American teens are no exception. Hookah smoking began in the Persian Empire in the 16th century and had continued to grow in popularity, particularly among youth. The dangers of hookah smoking from the Centers of Disease and Control Prevention reports. About 23% of 12th grade students in the United States had used a hookah in the past year, up 17% from 2010. The problem is not limited simply among high school seniors, but middle school, high school, and college students are lighting up as well at increasing rates. This is a problem because younger and younger kids are trying this dangerous material, ingesting toxic and harmful chemicals as their bodies are still developing. The process of smoking flavored hookah involves a water pipe that burns charcoal that then heats the tobacco and creates smoke. The fumes from the smoke cool by bubbling through a water-filled chamber and inhaled by the user. Many may wonder why teens smoke a hookah. One reason in particular is the attractive flavors. Flavors such as bubblegum, green apple, and coconut mask the harsh appeal to youth. While smoking cigarettes causes the user to smell terrible, hookah smells much better. These flavors are a prime reason why many users do not believe the product is harmful, when in fact both cigarettes and hookah both contain the same dangerous and addictive ingredients, such as nicotine. In fact, hookah is at least as toxic as smoking cigarettes. The social nature of hookah smoking is another reason why teens participate in this activity. Hookah users often pass one pipe among several users. Citizens should become concerned because users may not be aware of the harm they are doing to their bodies, and considering that many users are teens makes this problem particularly concerning. Hookah smoking often takes place in specific bars and lounges geared toward the activity. These places are often alternatives for youth unable to legally drink in bars. The number of hookah bars and lounges across the country is also increasing. This shows that the problem isn't going away anytime soon. There are several reasons why hookah smoking poses problems for American teens. Along with the addictive nicotine in the product, it also contains cancer-causing toxins that have been associated with lung cancer, respiratory illness, low birth weight, and periodontal disease. Another reason why this presents a problem for users is the longer sessions, deep inhales, and more puffs one takes when smoking hookah as opposed to cigarettes. A typical hookah sessions last an hour and involve 200 puffs, while an average cigarette is only 20 puffs. To continue, loopholes exist and a lack of both local and federal legislation is in place to regulate hookah. While many laws exist for cigarette smoking, such as price, flavor regulation, age restriction, and places where people can smoke, hookah smoking is much less regulated, which makes it easier for teens to purchase and participate in the practice. This is an epidemic that must not be ignored if we care about the youth of America and their health. We must not ignore this potentially lethal problem. So that just gives you an idea of what the overall paragraph should look like. So I'm going to break it down just a little bit further. So notice that the topic sentence introduces the overall problem and briefly mentioned who is affected. The health risks of hookah smoking affect all participants, and American teens are no exception. It's just sort of giving an idea that, like, wow, this is a problem for everyone who does this, but in particular kids, because that's where we have a lot of information, okay? And then we have our claim, our answer of who, right, is doing this. So started in the 16th century, and who's doing it? Youth. Okay, and then we have our answer, or excuse me, our citation and evidence. And notice the embedding with the title of the article. So the dangers of hookah smoking from the Centers of Disease and Control Prevention reports, comma, we have that set off embedding strategy or format where we have the title, a verb, and a comma, okay, the set off method before the quote. Okay, then we have additional information of who is being affected. Notice that we have a couple pieces of evidence before we get to that reason explanation. Okay, why should people care about kids smoking hookah? Well, that's because they're ingesting these terrible chemicals and their bodies are still developing, right? We always want to be tying our reason and explanation, asking ourselves, why should people care? What should they do with this information? Okay. And then we're moving into what is the problem. And this is a very specific definition of what hookah smoking is, because we have to assume that our reader doesn't know a lot about it. Okay. So it really breaks down how someone smokes hookah or what hookah is. Okay. We have that piece of evidence that's a paraphrase of this information of the smoke cooling through the water-filled chamber. Okay. We don't really need a lot of maybe explanation for this. We could add a little bit, but in this case, I think that the paragraph is effective without it. And then we're asking ourselves why people do this. Many may wonder why teens smoke a hookah. And then we're going to go through several different reasons. And that's really the bulk of your paragraph, is that why and that how. Because if it wasn't a problem, right, we wouldn't necessarily need to be explaining it. So that why this is a problem is really, really important. So one reason is the attractive flavors. And then we have that nice paraphrase of the flavors. Okay. And then we have more evidence about this product being harmful. In fact, it's just as harmful as cigarettes. They have, the same sort of ingredients. Again, more information about why it's a problem. We have several pieces of evidence built on top of one another, folks. And that can work. You can absolutely do that. You don't want quote, 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 but a couple of paraphrases of evidence can be together. That's fine if it's driving home that same idea of why it's a problem. Again, social nature is another reason why, this is a problem. And then we have that reason and explanation of why people should care about this, right? Why should they care that kids are smoking this stuff? Well, it's pretty terrible because they're putting harmful chemicals in their body. And then we go into where this is a problem, and we have that specific piece of evidence of where it's a problem, where this problem is taking place, and then that explanation that this is an increasing problem because more hookah bars are being opened. Then we're going to go into a little bit more why of the problem, okay, that answer or that claim. And then some more evidence. Notice that this is a build-in along with the addictive nicotine in the product. It also contains cancer-causing toxins that, remember that build-in method, right, is where we have that information before the quote and the word that. Okay, it's not a verb, it's just the word that before the quote, no comma. Then we have our quoted material. Okay. Another piece of evidence, and this piece of evidence was embedded using the colon method. So we have that independent sentence that can stand all on its own that gives us a really broad idea or broad explanation of the quote before we get to the quote. So another reason why this presents a problem for users is the longer sessions, deep inhales, and more puffs it takes when smoking hookah as opposed to cigarettes. This is a complete sentence, okay? That colon method, it has to be a complete sentence. And then we have the colon, and then we have that quote that modifies that complete sentence. It gives us more specifics, right? It's modifying it. It's giving us more information. Modification always means more, like giving us that more information. So 200 puffs as opposed to cigarettes with only 20 puffs. Okay, and then just a little bit more information of why and some more explanation. And then last but not least is the concluding sentence that reminds the readers of the seriousness of the problem. Like, we cannot ignore this problem because it has potentially lethal ramifications. So please use this video and this example paragraph as you are building your own paragraph. This is what you're aiming for. Folks, notice that this paragraph is about a page and a half. It's a pretty lengthy paragraph. It has multiple pieces of evidence, lots of explanation, lots of ACEs and CERs that really inform your reader about your problem.